and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance to the American flag. The invocation tonight will be offered by the Reverend Mary Lewis McCullough of the Second Presbyterian Church. She is the guest of Council Member Berkeley Allen.
Let us pray. Generous and life-giving God, we come this night to consider the great gift of shaping and participating in our common life in Nashville. For all who are gathered here, in whom there is an abiding desire to govern rightly, we ask that you will bless that desire. We thank you for the opportunity to be citizens of a city richly blessed, and we pray that you will keep this council and all who have come to observe mindful of our neighbors whose needs are great, whose resources are few, who struggle with limitations that are not of their making, and who look to those who govern for guidance and assistance. Let these who govern exercise discernment and wisdom. Enable them to bring energy, intelligence, imagination, and love to their work. We thank you, O God, for their willingness to serve, and we pray that you will ground them in a vision of your larger purpose in all that they do. Grant that we might appreciate the great gift of life. Use this body and all who are gathered to further your vision for this city, celebrating its diversity, being good stewards of its resources, and being sparked by the creativity which brings life and abundance for all. May we serve you, Holy One, in all that we do. Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Without objection, we will suspend the calling of the roll and ask the clerk to record the names of those members present during the course of the meeting. Is there a motion for the adoption of the minutes of the meeting of August 21, 2012? If there's no objection, the minutes of the meeting will stand as approved as written. This brings us to confirmations and elections. Is there a report from the Rules and Confirmations Committee? Councilmember Anthony Davis.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Had a few appointments today. The first, the committee appointed or confirmed Mr. Harold Ferguson to the Gas Mechanical Examiners Appeals Board by a vote of 5 for, none against. It was a first-time appointment, and I move his approval.
You've heard the motion for confirmation of Mr. Harold Ferguson to the Gas Mechanical Examiners Appeal Board. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion's adopted. Councilmember Anthony Davis.
Yes. Next, we had for the Historical Zoning Commission a first-time appointment of Ms. Rose Cantrell. She was approved 5 for, none against, and I move her approval.
Second.
You've heard the motion for the confirmation of Ms. Rose Cantrell to the Historic Zoning Commission. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. Councilmember Davis.
Yes, thank you. Next, for the Procurement Standards Board, we had Mr. David Williams, a reappointment. Committee recommended his approval, 5 for, none against, and I'd like to move his approval.
You've heard the motion for the confirmation of Mr. David Williams to the Procurement Standards Board. All in favor, please vote aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The motion is adopted. Councilmember Davis.
Finally, for the Public Library Board, we had a first-time appointment of Ms. Joyce Searcy, and the committee approved her 5 for, none against, and I'd like to move her approval.
You've heard the motion for the confirmation of Ms. Joyce Searcy to the Public Library Board. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The motion is adopted. We would like to recognize at this time those citizens who were confirmed tonight. If you will stand as I call your names and remain standing until all have been introduced. To the Gas Mechanical Examiner Appeal Board, Mr. Harold Ferguson. To the Historic Zoning Commission, Ms. Rose Cantrell. David Williams had to leave. To the Public Library Board, Ms. Joyce Searcy. On behalf of the Metro Council and the citizens of Davidson County, we want to thank you for your willingness to serve. Thank you so much. We're now at the public hearing part of tonight's agenda. The first item is RS 2012-394, which exempts Kohana Japanese Restaurant located at 2002 Richard Jones Road from the minimum distance requirements for obtaining a beer permit. Councilmember McGuire.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd move to open the public hearing.
Thank you. Please raise your hand if you're here tonight in favor of this bill. Please raise your hand if you're here in opposition. Seeing no one in opposition, does anyone in favor wish to speak? I move that the public hearing is closed. Councilmember McGuire.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd move approval.
I'm sorry. We do have a committee report.
Excuse me, do a committee report, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Pro Tem. Public Safety approved 8-4-0 against.
Thank you. Councilmember McGuire.
Thank you. I would move approval.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion passes. The next bill on public hearing is BL 2012-193. It changes 1.52 acres from CS to MUL zoning for property located at 265 Old Hickory Boulevard. Councilmember Pridemore.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I open for public hearing, please.
Please raise your hand if you're here tonight in favor of this. Please raise your hand if you're here in opposition. Seeing no one in opposition, does anyone in favor wish to speak? Seeing none, I declare the public hearing closed. Councilmember Pridemore.
Move for passage.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. The motion passes. Next item on the public hearing is BL 2012-194. This was disapproved by the Planning Commission. It changes 31.96 acres from IWD to SP zoning for properties located at 2050 Lucas Lane and at Lucas Lane unnumbered to permit scrap operation, retail, and all other uses permitted by the IWD zoning district. Councilmember Scott Davis.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move to open the public hearing.
Right, and before the public hearing, we have some slides
from the plan.
This is Council Bill 2012-144. It's a request to rezone property at 2050 Lucas Lane and Lucas Lane unnumbered. The property is outlined in red, and the request is to rezone from IWD to SP, and the Planning Commission recommended disapproval. The property is currently zoned IWD and it permits a wide range of warehousing, wholesaling, and distribution uses. The SP would permit retail, office, and a scrap operation. The land use policy is neighborhood urban, which supports a range of housing types and a mix of commercial uses. This policy does not support the scrap operation use. While there are industrial uses now permitted on the property, the proposed scrap operation would move the zoning further away from the policy. This is the site plan, which includes a retail building with associated parking, a maintenance facility, and space for more than 1,600 cars where customers could remove the parts. This is a view of the property, and the Planning Commission recommended disapproval as the land use policy does not support the more intense industrial uses proposed in this SP.
Thank you. Councilmember Davis.
Thank you, Mr. President. Move to open the public hearing.
Thank you. Please raise your hand if you're here tonight in support of this. Please raise your hand if you're here in opposition. Would anyone in favor wish to speak? If so, please line up at the lectern. And please state your name and address.
Take the mic. Hello. Good evening. My name is Eileen Satile. I'm one of the vice presidents of the LKQ Corporation. My address is 2900 South Port Royal Drive, Fort Lauderdale, Florida, 33308. We have an operation here in Grassmere, one of our corporate offices based here in Grassmere in Nashville. I want to thank Councilman Davis and the distinguished members of the council. LKQ is a green company. We're the largest nationwide provider of aftermarket, recycled, and refurbished car parts. LKQ has operations in the U.S., the UK, Canada, Central America, with 20,000 employees and 430 facilities. In Tennessee, we have 537 employees at 8 locations. We pay taxes on over $25 million in payroll. Nashville is LKQ's hub for all of our accounting, HR, and IT operations. We actually closed one of our operations in California in 2010, relocated some families here, and then additionally created 200 more jobs in Nashville. We've done everything we said we would do as a good corporate citizen when we first entered the market in Tennessee. Now LKQ wants to invest again in a facility over on Lucas Lane. What we'd like to build is a self-service retail auto parts facility, which we believe is consistent and will help to enhance the neighborhood, consistent with the community plan, will help to enhance the neighborhood in District 5. This is what we do. We basically purchase cars from the neighborhood, from residents or from auto auctions. We take those cars into our facility, prepare them in accordance to all environmental requirements. Then we organize those vehicles neatly in a display area. Customers who are typically father, son, hobbyists, collision repairs may come to our facility and remove parts from the car and install them on their vehicles. It's called a retail self-service operation. We have 47 of these types of operations across the country. LKQ at this operation will create 17 to 25 new jobs. We're anticipating about $25 million in payroll across the state where we'll be paying taxes, and most of it based here in Nashville. Our proposed facility will be a vast improvement from the conditions currently at the property. Our facility will have restricted 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. hours, 4 p.m. in the winter, a paved entrance with travel lanes. Just 2 to 3 trucks will enter and leave the property daily. We'll have a decorative wall, and on I-95, a decorative enhanced wall, so the aesthetics are improved. And the security fences around the property will help to enhance crime, along with the lighting that will be provided. Local community businesses will benefit greatly from our operation. All kinds of other local companies will reap the benefits, anything from restaurants to tow truck operators to collision repair shops to auto dealers to shippers, FedEx, UPS services, mailing services. We believe will bring a great benefit to the community.
Thank you.
I'm sorry. Okay. In conclusion, we'd like to continue to grow in Nashville. We appreciate the support you've given us so far. We have a great presence here. We look forward to growing further. Thank you.
Can I start?
Sure. Go ahead and state your name and address.
Okay. My name is Kim Tucker, and my address is 927 Douglas Avenue. Basically, the research that I've done, I've not really found anything against. I will list the things that I found for. The Diesel College, Nashville Auto Diesel College, is our sponsors. I work with the single mothers of Nashville. The things that I found there for, they are a member of the Chamber and the Retail Association. They invest in the community, and I will be offering, help us out, single mothers. Providing it being a pencil partner, they have already helped Schwab Elementary. They are a pencil partner. They work with the law enforcement and the fire department. They have 47 organizations across. So basically, if it wasn't a good organization, they would have been gone already. Basically, I've looked at what's going on, and it's pretty, it's aesthetic. You can't see it from Dickerson Road. You can't see it from Trinity Lane. So basically, what's going on, you can't see it. So I don't understand the effects of why they don't want it there. You can't even see it. If it was something that was going on, they should have said something already about what's up there. Jobs, single mothers. I work with single mothers in every neighborhood. They're going to offer some jobs for the single mothers, which is basically who I work with. The single mothers need jobs. $12 an hour. It's on the bus line. So that's basically what the mothers need, something that's on the bus line. And $12 an hour, that's a very good deal. It's convenient. And they give back to the community. I've looked into it and I've researched it. They give back to the community. Cheap parts. Who doesn't want cheap parts? You know what I'm saying? I need cheap parts. I went to school. I went to Lipscomb. I have loans that I have to pay back. I work for the state of Tennessee. I work for DCS. I don't make that much money. You work for the state. You know how much I make. Cheap parts. That's a good thing. It helps us pay for gas. I mean, it helps save on gas because it's cheap parts. Neighborhood safety, because I've gone up there. I've seen it. There's nothing up there. So basically what's going on is like the prostitution that's going up there. So if they build this, basically they're going to run out the prostitution, and that's going to be gone. So that's what we're needing in East Nashville, is a safer community.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
My name is Jay Fulmer. I reside at 1420 Sharp Avenue, Nashville 37206. I've been working on the site development engineering of the property and just wanted to speak on the existing and proposed use. Currently, the site is used as a 24/7 operation for tractor trailer exchange yard. People are coming and going any time of the day and night. The site is elevated from I-65 about 20 to 45 feet, and if you driving up and down the interstate, you can see all the tractor trailers parked there. It's currently gravel and dirt. It's ungraded dirt piles and incomplete ponds. All of these create a lot of dust onto the adjacent properties. With the implementation of the SP zoning, we'll be able to limit the site use by LKQ. The hours of operation will be 7 to 7, which will eliminate all the noise at night. It'll also create a dustless surface. All the access roads will be paved. It'll eliminate all the dust on the adjacent properties. We'll bring the site into conformance with the current stormwater regulations. We'll finish the ponds and create and eliminate any of the stormwater issues. Type D buffer yard for landscape will be required abutting the residential district. This is the most stringent buffer yard in the zoning ordinance. It's been established over, same buffer's been used for many years. We'll have fencing along I-65 that'll screen any of the operation. Due to the lower elevation of the interstate, you will not be able to see anything on the site. And there will also be an opaque screening along the residential district. Off-site improvements will include a cul-de-sac terminus at Lucas Lane. We have aerial photos that go back to the early 90s that show no improvement at the end of Lucas Lane. We also done a traffic study that shows no great impact in the area. And that's all I have.
Thank you.
Can I go ahead and start? Or is it all right? My name is Ed Breland. I reside at 705 Lynbrook Road, Nashville 37215. I'm an environmental consultant who was hired by LKQ Corporation to research the history of this site. To provide you a little bit of history, this site has been partially filled with a treated ash material that primarily originated from the Metro Nashville thermal plant. The Tennessee Department of Environment and Conservation granted approval in December 2000 to allow placement of this material as fill. The ash material was capped with an earthen and rock material as prescribed by the permit. On behalf of LKQ, I requested the TDEC reevaluate this site in April of this year. On April 11, 2012, I accompanied the manager of the TDEC's Division of Solid Waste Management field office in walking the entire property to determine if any visible concerns were evident. Based upon the walkthrough, this cap appears to remain intact as intended by the permit, and no concerns were noted on the overall area of the site or the adjoining creek branch. The TDEC issued a follow-up letter dated April 16th acknowledging their favorable findings. LKQ views this as an opportunity to enhance the site both economically and environmentally by development of a state-of-the-art facility with environmental best practices employed. Failure of the council to approve the site development as requested will result in the site remaining in its present state for potentially years or decades to come, with continued parking of numerous trucks which present themselves a problem, as well as providing an avenue for unmonitored dumping to continue. Therefore, I ask the council to vote favorably on this rare opportunity being requested to enhance the site in which the city and neighborhood can be proud of. no different than other favorable council votes, which have resulted in the revitalization of other parts of our city. Please understand that an unfavorable vote by the council will position this site with an unknown future. I'd like to provide a copy of the TDEC written approval letter as a recorded document for your review. Can I present that? Thank you. Thank you for your time, and thank you for consideration.
Thank you.
Mr. Pro Tem, members of the council, my name is Sean Henry, 315 Dedrick Street. I represent LKQ Corporation. LKQ stands for like, kind, quality parts, plain and simple. They're a competitor to your OEM parts. They provide an incredible service to our community, and they intend to do so here. This process began about 1.5 years ago, where they came to our office and they were looking for this particular piece of property after scouring the county for an appropriate site in which to locate this type of retail facility with an inventory yard. They had no success in finding a comparable site. We went through the community plan amendment process through the Planning Commission. We had a community meeting on May 31st at the East Precinct in East Nashville. There was no one in opposition to that community plan proposed amendment. No opposition during that community meeting. The existing zoning is inconsistent with the existing community plan. The existing uses in the surrounding area are not only inconsistent with the present community plan, but they're also non-conforming as to existing zoning, and I'll give you a few examples. Next door there's a warehouse. In front of the property is a truck stop. Across the street is a building contractor supply. Next door is a demolition salvage yard. These are all uses in which this property is contextually located, and so we think it merits a distinction between the other policy initiatives through the planning effort relative to this site, particularly given its proximity to Interstate 65, Interstate 24. This property has been filled to a point where it's essentially a ledge almost 50 feet above the interstate. So very little of it is visible, and to the extent that it is, it's going to be provided with a masonry wall that will shield that view. To give you a sense, it's 32 acres in size, but only 50% of the site is actually usable. And so LKQ intends to reuse that 15 acres. Regarding the community character manual, the special policies that are in that manual for your consideration, as well as the Planning Commission, includes language that would allow us to add clarity to form and character of the development and to address immediate and unique concerns and issues raised. This SP does exactly that. And the adjacent property owner, UMH Properties, agrees. They wrote a letter to you dated August 10 that states, quote, I understand that LKQ will be creating 25 full-time local jobs in conjunction with this facility, as well as contributing significant tax revenue. UMH Properties will support LKQ's proposal and encourages the council to do so as well, signed by the president of that company. If the adjacent property owner recognizes the value that LKQ is bringing not only to this property, but the value they're bringing to Nashville, we hope that this council would likewise see that wisdom. Finally, there's an amendment that will be offered on third reading to do two things. One, reduce the closing hours by 1 hour, and also to absolutely prohibit any IWD uses. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Hy Lewis. I'm an industrial real estate broker with the Charles Hawkins Company. My address is 776 Melrose Avenue, Nashville 37211. I'm here to give a historical snapshot as the leasing agent and representative for the owner of the property, Mr. Jack Jenkins. In December of 2008, we were hired by the owner of the property at 2050 Lucas Lane, Jenkins Properties LP, to list for lease roughly 32 acres of land. From December of 2008 through June of 2011, we actively marketed the site for lease and fielded calls and conducted tours from brokers and business owners that showed an interest in the site. According to my records, below is a list of the prospects that we have come into contact with who are interested in the possibility of leasing land in any or all of the property that we're referring to. In June of 2009, there was a 15-acre need for a drop yard for tractor trailer parking. In February of 2009, there was a cargo container storage company looking for roughly 12 acres of land, similar to the Mobile Mini or Pods cargo containers. In late February of 2009, there was an on-site cargo container storage, moving and storage containers and mobile office company looking for 15 acres. In April of 2009, there was a dumpster and roll-off container and fleet parking for trash trucks looking for 2.5 acres. In June of 2009, there was a broker in town that had a client looking for 10 acres as a drop yard for tractor trailer parking. In late June of 2009, there was a National Credit Waste Company that sent to us a request for proposal to lease 15 acres of land for waste collection and sorting. In September of 2010, a broker in Nashville had a client need looking for 2 to 5 acres for trailer parking. In late September of 2010, there was a prospect looking for 5 acres for tractor trailer parking. In October of 2010, there was an auto parts recycling center that was looking to lease the entire site. In June of 2011, there was a broker that had a client looking for 7 to 10 acres for tractor trailer parking. I present you this information so that you can have an idea as the marketing broker for the property as to what type of prospects we had that were interested in leasing any or all of the site over the past 2.5 to 3 years. That's all. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Matt Lieber. I live at 1334 Lishi Avenue, 37207. I live just a few blocks from the proposed site. When I first heard about the option, my first question was about jobs because our district has huge unemployment. And so when I heard that there was the possibility and a desire to do local hiring, that was most important. And then when I heard that many of the folks here who live right beside the site were in support, then that also increased. So I ask you all to support, and I applaud Councilman Scott Davis for trying to increase jobs in our district. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Council. My name is Sam McCullough, and I reside at 1112 North 6th Street, which is approximately about 1.5 miles from the proposed site. I do also want to thank Councilman Scott Davis for bringing such of a business into our area because of the fact we are needing jobs over there. There are a lot of people that are unemployed. This will give an opportunity to get full-time work and also to take care of a problem. I've been in East Nashville all my life. I've known where Lucas Lane was, but until Councilman Davis asked me to physically go look at the site, I had never driven on the street. Anything that goes on top of that hill would be an improvement as its current state, because right now we have a lot of prostitution, a lot of drug activity, and a lot of things that nobody wants in the community. With this LKQ coming into the community and already partnering with the schools and the neighbors that have the biggest stake in it, as you can tell tonight, they're here in full support of LKQ. They have already proven, as I stated in a letter that I sent to the council on yesterday, that they're willing and wanting to be a part of the community and be a good neighbor. So I would ask your support tonight in favor of the LKQ company coming into East Nashville District 5. Thank you.
Nope. Don't clap after the speakers. Thank you. Go ahead.
Mr. Speaker, members of the council, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Jack Cawthon, owner of Jack's Barbecue on West Trinity Lane and a property owner. I'm a charter member of the Dickerson Road Merchants Association, as well as chairman of Talbot's Corner, representing merchants in the Bridge Church Pike and Trinity Lane area. I'm speaking on my behalf, not representing any group. LKQ is a solution to a long-time problem that goes back 20 years when the owner of the proposed site took a rolling hill, beautiful rolling hill, and turned it into what some community leaders call it a landfill. There was a lot of hard feelings in the process, which we need to get overcome and move forward and do what's right for the community. Today, the site is being used for 18-wheelers, causing dust, noise, stormwater problems, and crime. By now, you know LKQ is not just a junkyard. It's in the traditional sense. We know what a junkyard looks like. We have 3 in the area. It's a green recycling facility that will be held to higher standards, and they want to landscape the hillside and correct many of the issues with the site. We also have learned that LKQ has 320 employees working in Nashville and Grassmere and technology. I am sure some of them are living in North Nashville. How do you think they feel when people ask them, where do you work? We want them to be proud when they spend their money in Nashville, Tennessee. LKQ will bring shoppers to the area and help local businesses, and it will provide 25 good-paying jobs and will teach a trade. LKQ is half the size of HCA. They are nationwide and in other countries. They are a public trade company. Their ticker is LKQ. Their stock was $38 today. They want to be a corporate citizen, which means community involvement. Voting yes will accomplish two things: put the property to its highest best use now and put closure to the past. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Councilman. My name is Timothy Bowers. I reside at 409 Hart Avenue, District 5. I'm here in support of LKQ. I think they'd be a great asset to the community. I think they would provide jobs. I think they would help clean up East Nashville. There's a problem with a bunch of abandoned cars. It'll give a place for these cars to go, opposed to being pushed down the alley and left on the street and just vacant. I myself, I'm a mechanic. I can go there and buy parts. I've bought parts from them before. I had them shipped to wherever I was working on the car. They're great to do business with. And I just think highly of the company and hope that you find it in your hearts to support them. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Speaker and ladies and gentlemen of the council. I'm a resident of District 5 and have been for over 2 years. In this time, I have seen my neighborhood transition into a warm, quiet, and alluring place for young professionals. I represent a demographic that finds District 5 a very appealing area to reside. The proximity to downtown, to the expressway, as well as the local array of entertainment options has my friends very envious of my address. The development of the area will only be nurtured by the addition of LKQ. The ability to attract quality places of employment will bring additional revenue and more professionals to the area. A certified business such as this will bolster the allure while also providing a much needed boost to the economy. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Speaker Pro Tem, members of the council, and ladies and gentlemen. My name is Eddie Gray. I reside at 1706A Gale Lane, 37212, and I too am here in favor of the LKQ project for 3 reasons. First, the project does not detract from the area. I've taken a drive on that particular piece of property, and there is nothing there. It is a gravel lot used to house tractor trailers, and it's very empty. LKQ has committed $1.7 million to improve the parcel of land by including retail space, easements that are very much needed, and landscaping. Secondly, there is the opportunity for good paying jobs through LKQ. For not only District 5, but other members and residents of Metro. They have committed to $647,000 in payroll for annually, and have committed to hiring up to 25 employees for that particular area. And lastly, this project makes budgetary and economic sense for Metro. Right now, that particular property, Metro collects around $2,700 in tax revenue. With the proposed improvements, it would increase 11-fold. Right now, we're always speaking about budgetary crunches. This is an opportunity to organically grow our tax base. Further, they're a retail organization, so based on their projections, we're looking at about $108,000 in proposed sales tax revenue coming to the city, and $112,500 projected annually going forward. So please find it on your hearts to vote yes, and thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Speaker, my name is Thomas Hibbs. I reside at 511 Maplewood Lane. I am also a business owner at 321 Trinity Lane. This LKQ company is someone who will come in and generate revenue, give jobs to the community. Everybody wants the small businesses to succeed, and that's what I have, and that's what they're bringing in, is a business that wants to come into this community and succeed in the community to build jobs, to build revenue, and have everybody to where we can clean up the area and make a nice place for everybody to live. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Jeffrey Smith. I reside at 927 Douglas Avenue, Nashville, Tennessee 37206. It is an honor to address you tonight, Council and Mr. Speaker. It's an honor to be here. I admire every one of you and what you do. At the risk of sounding redundant, I would like to also say that LKQ would bring jobs and income for families. At 25 jobs, even that 25 jobs might not sound like a lot, but that represents 25 families. And if you had 25 families where there was no income, you would ask them how they felt about it. I think they'd be pretty happy. Also, I'd like to ask you to look at the area, how it is. There's been improvements coming. It's good to know that Scott Davis, the councilman, he's always looking for ways to improve that area. That would be an improvement, like the gentleman said, anything would be an improvement in that area. The tax money would be a great increase for Nashville, I believe. And lastly, I'd like to say that anything that we could do to help the community in that area, and that business would be helping different organizations. If we could get all the organizations and all the businesses on Dickerson Road in East Nashville, or even in all of Nashville, to commit to helping another organization or helping somebody else up, we would have a great, even greater city than it is. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Tammy Head. I reside at 105 Horn Drive. I do work for LKQ. Like many Tennesseans, I was underemployed until I went to work for LKQ. I have received 2 promotions within the year I have been there. They are always looking at improving their staff within, moving people up. I have seen office managers go to yard managers. LKQ is not a junkyard. It is a recycling center. I had the pleasure of visiting one of our sites in Manchester, Tennessee. That site was so clean, it was cleaner than some of the restaurants I've seen. It was unbelievable. Nothing hit the ground. No gas, no antifreeze, nothing. All that stuff is recycled. With our gas shortages, our gas prices at an all-time high, recycling the gas, lower prices on car parts is essential to our community. We have also medical benefits, our 401k plan. Like they said, we are publicly traded. LKQ has increased their stocks by, I believe, about $4 in the last year, which is phenomenal. We also have yards in West Palm Beach, Riviera, Florida, San Bernardino, California. We have one in Guatemala. We have them all over the place. I run the self-service yards. I do all the accounting for the self-service yards. They put a lot of money into the community. I see all of the things. They give cars to fire departments, police departments, for drills. They do rebuilders. They take the old parts and recycle them so that people can have less expensive parts, quality parts. LKQ has, at this time, we did have 47 self-service locations. We just purchased 10 more throughout the United States. 5 of them were in Maryland, 5 of them were in Florida. I would like to say that I have one that I do the accounting for in Nashville. I have one in Memphis that we do the accounting for. LKQ has done a lot for me and my family. I would like to see it do the same for East Nashville. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, members of the council. My name is Jorge Conforme, and I'm work for LKQ, but I'm not here to talk on behalf of LKQ. Instead, my comments will be short, and they're to provide representation to those who can't testify before you because of a language barrier. So if you'll indulge me, I'd just like to demonstrate the support from Shady Hills resident for LKQ's project. Shady Hills is a community adjacent to the proposed site. So I'll address the question first in English for the record, and then I'll address it in Spanish. First question is, how many of you live in Shady Hills? ¿Cuántos de ustedes viven en Shady Hills? Thank you, gracias. How many of you support LKQ's project? ¿Cuántos de ustedes apoyan la propuesta de LKQ? As you can see, the argument is that the immediate vicinity should have a larger voice and decide whether or not this is a good thing for the community. LKQ definitely has the support of the immediate vicinity. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the council. My name is Evan Neerman. I represent LKQ Corporation, and I appreciate the opportunity to speak with you tonight. And as you can see, as evidenced by the dozens of individuals who've come here for this hearing, we've done a lot of visiting with both local businesses and with the residents in District 5. And as you just saw in that demonstration, we've met extensively also with the residents of the Shady Hills community. And these, of course, are the individuals who are most directly impacted. They live directly next to the property. And they are strongly supporting LKQ, and they're eager to welcome us to the neighborhood. In addition, 600 residents and businesses have signed letters of support, including Dollar General, Jack's Barbecue, UMH, which is the company that's the owner of the Shady Hills community, MS Auto Sales and Repair, Haley Salvage Company, Tire Barn, Trinity Gas, and Community Market. In addition to meeting with all of these businesses and these local individuals, we've also participated in a national night out against crime, which we were privileged to do, and also held a town hall meeting recently at Swab Elementary, which gave us a great opportunity to present in detail our plans for the site to the local residents. In addition, we've spoken with about 65 churches in District 5. In addition, we created a website. The address is www.lkqintn.com. Invite you to go to the website if you haven't yet had the opportunity. There's a lot of fact-based information there. There's a video that's on the homepage which provides a real window into the great changes that are in store. And as you all know, we tried to meet with every member of the council to brief you in detail on our plans, and many of the members asked to see evidence and letters of support and that documentation, which we have provided to you. Once you've had the chance to review those, we would be happy to collect those materials and recycle them. In closing, let me just say we've invested in Nashville for years. We've created jobs. We've created revenue for the state. We've been outstanding community partners. This LKQ facility is going to create even more jobs. It's going to enhance Lucas Lane, as you've heard about. It's going to be a dramatic improvement for the residents of District 5, many of whom are here tonight and eager to welcome us as partners. And we believe that at the end of the day, our retail project on the site is going to dramatically enhance the neighborhood, and it's going to lead to additional positive development, which is certainly consistent with the community plan. We're thrilled at the opportunity to continue growing with Nashville. I invite you to join us. With your support and working together, we can bring more jobs and also set a new standard for businesses in District 5. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Brenda Ross. I live at 813 Stockwell Street, 30-year resident of District 5, 25-year retired veteran from Metro Social Services, 30-plus active member of community events in East Nashville and District 5, and presently chairing the Dickerson Road Merchants Association Buffalo Fest. Contrary to some things that you may hear tonight, I support the residents and the merchants of Dickerson Road, and I ask that you truly hear them out and scope out what's best for our community, and I appreciate that vote. And it's been a long battle in District 5, and we've been through a lot. And one thing I want to make for sure, emphasize that the residents on the other side of District 5, beside the residents of Shady Hill, are aware of what's happening in the area. And basically I feel, and I say myself, this is not our fight. This is the battle of the residents who live there. And I ask that you listen not only to the residents, but to the merchants also. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Pro Tem, members of the council, my name is Tom White. I live at 36 Old Club Court. I'm here on behalf of LKQ. I want to start my comments by saying that our law firm has had the privilege to be involved in a lot of land use issues over many years. I don't ever remember a client that took their task so seriously as LKQ. After my law partner Sean Henry and I made comments to a lot of different members of the council and sent material to you, a lot of the members of the council responded, we've looked at it, we think it's a good idea, we're favorable. We would pass that information along to our client. They were determined yet to meet with you because they wanted to flesh out all issues to make sure that every question was answered, all the information was given, and I'm speaking to the jury that received those items. I mean, you know how diligent they were. They took the time, they took the effort, they took the conscious application to make sure that everybody understood all the issues here. With respect to the proposal that's before you, everybody would like to have the Planning Commission approve it. This project's no different than any other else. In this particular case, it was a policy issue, but there's not one person that can stand before you tonight and tell you that this proposed use is not better than that current use on the property. Nobody can debate that. You've heard those issues over and over again, and people may be opposed to this, but nobody can stand before you and tell you the proposed use is not a better one. With respect to this company, they've basically put their money where their mouth was. They've come here. The meetings that they've had with the constituents that live in that area, with the council members, with different committees and job groups in the community has just been extraordinary. It's really been untold of as far as I can recall in a matter like this. They've got a global company with a local presence, 325 jobs in Grassmere, up to 25 jobs at this particular site. I want to thank Councilman Scott Davis, who's given an incredible amount of his time and frankly has allowed the information to come out. Initially, when the project was announced, there was clearly misinformation given about this was a scrapyard. It was something other than what it was. Once you've seen it, it's a green company that has absolutely a totally laudatory purpose. I also want to say in closing that you often see people come before the council on land use issues. And you'll see a lot of lawyers come up here, you see engineers, you see planners. When's the last time you saw this many people up here that live in the district that came out to support this? That's a real telling factor. People can mobilize to be against something, but to get people that support something to actually come out, speak and address, and give their evening is something extraordinary. It's a credit to this client. It's a good project. Urge your approval. Thank you for your courtesies.
Thank you. Does anyone in opposition wish to speak? If so, please line up at the lectern and state your name and address.
My name is LaValvia Brewer, and I reside at 691 Rebels Drive, not in the district, but it's right close to the district, adjoining it. I stand before you tonight. I'm retired as a radio broadcaster, 50 years of it. Nashville being the smallest city I've ever worked in, but I've done a lot of positive things to put fingers on this city, to make it what it is. You know, in this state also. I mean, I started working in this state back when Winfield Gunn was the governor. But first, I'd just like to say thanks to QLK or LQR, whatever it is. Thank you all for doing what you're doing. Trying to bring jobs, good. Fine, we need that. I'm for growth for that. But you know what? When I look, and people put God on a time clock because they come out of church early when the NFL season is on. And when you turn it on, they say, from the beautiful banks of the Cumberland River, they say the city of Nashville, the country music capital, the beautiful LP field, and you look down and Steiner Lift was right over there. They shooting these shots are here, and you're trying to get that away from downtown. Now they're parking to go to LP field all the way back up to Trinity Lane in people's yards, $10 a whop. So you're spreading out, but now you're coming from LP Field, you're going right up Dickerson Road, and you're putting something else, another Steiner Lift. They just come there and pull them apart. And that brings rodents, roaches, everything else. You bring it on somebody else's car, you done pulled up there. You don't know who had it, what had it. But anyway, it's nothing nice. As far as a public hearing, where you don't see nobody else, and you only see these people with these shirts that they've been got, to be put on, that's because the public didn't know about it. I didn't know anything about it until I come up with this. It's the second time that I've had to come up here. I hear something now since there's new things going on. You tried to put a waste dump. They wouldn't call it a garbage dump. They said, well, we're going to get everything out of here. We're going to use it because it's close to the train tracks in East Nashville. East Nashville has over 200,000 or 300,000 people living over there. Take it out. We got a lot of places around here. I'm talking about you could do all these things. We want companies like you. You're good companies. Oh, I'm making my buddy Jack Carpenter mad over here. But that's one time I got to stand against you, Jack. I love your barbecue. But, Anyway, and then another thing, Jack, and let me just say this. You are a Dickerson Road merchant. Yes, you are. And there's several other fellows stood up here with you say, we Dickerson Road merchants, we want this, we want that. Fine, but the Dickerson Road Merchants Association does not want it. The whole organization. You are members of the organization. And look here, this is just, and all these people sitting up here, half of them, I don't even know from East Nashville, and I've been around here for at least 30, 40 years now, but look, this is not right. You pass it across to people. I say that, look, y'all vote this thing down and put it off till the people can come up and then give everybody a chance to come up and discuss it. They've already discussed it with you all because they said it. So yeah, we talked to every council member to try to let you know $22,000 that you're getting on the land now ain't nothing, but a lot more money would be better, but it could be better spent. Find another place to put it at in this great
Thank you.
My name's Tony Klaus, and I own the business located at 1511 Dickerson Pike. I was at the Planning Commission when they voted it down 8-0. Like Mr. White said and Sean said, it's a land use issue. The way that Metro has this thing worded, it is a scrap yard. We're pulling parts off and we're selling them. The issue is if it was left up to them, the highest zoning in the industrial zoning would be required for LKQ to go in. Over there on Dickerson Road, as we got it right now, there's about 6 to 7 different zonings within a mile radius of this property. And it's one of those issues that do we keep taking and putting zoning in places that doesn't need to be, it doesn't fit. I've got people that right now on the lower part of Dickerson Road that got put into a MDH overlay that Mr. White was involved in, that went in anyway, that if their business goes out, they can't go back in business because MDHA wants something else better for that area. They want something better happen out there. So their business is going to be gone. LKQ, yes, they're a great company. They bought the property down there at the forks of Whites Creek Pike and North First, took the business to Laverne, and about 35, 40 jobs is in Laverne these days. That's business. They had to do that. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. Like the gentleman said, I don't know how, I've asked people, how long has Noel Lift, PSC Metals, Coin Metals been right here on the river? Would they ever thought that that area would have changed like it is today? Now what we got over there is a beautiful stadium and a nice pile of metal. Like I told Councilman Davis, I said, over there where we're living, over there behind my office, who would ever thought houses would have brought $175,000, $200,000 on this side of Gallatin Road? I just encourage y'all to think about voting before you pass this, because in the long thing, it could be something that comes back and haunts another generation of council members that have to do something with it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Speaker, council people, ladies and gentlemen, if I'd known they were wearing the t-shirts, I'd have worn something different color, maybe black shirt. My name is Michael Douglas. I live at 2026 Rose Cliff Drive, 37206. I have a family-owned restaurant since the 70s, Charlie Bob's Restaurant on Dickerson Pike, 1330. I've lived in the neighborhood for over 40 years. I went to Swab Elementary School. I went to Highland Heights, and I finished out at Goodlettsville. I've seen Dickerson Pike when it was a really nice place. I've seen Dickerson Pike when it was not so nice. And now because the Dickerson Road Merchants Association helping the neighborhood people get things cleaned up, I've seen the neighborhood prosper. I have seen more businesses moving in down on the lower end of Dickerson Pike than I've ever seen in my life. And I just hats off to all of East Nashville. I love y'all. LKQ is an awesome company. I'm not here saying that they're a bad company. This is a service that's needed, but my thing is we have 4 of these within a mile and a half scrap yards. We have Abernathy, we have Hilltop, we have 4-lane, and then in the middle of downtown on the East Bank we have PSC Metals, which crushes cars. I'm begging y'all to please go with Metro Planning and deny this request. We have done such great things to improve the area. And if this gets put in up on top of the hill up there, investors flying around in helicopters looking for places to maybe put shopping centers, grocery stores, they see 5 salvage yards. Come on, really? Please, I'm begging, go with Metro Planning and disapprove this. Because in 50 years, I won't be here. And I don't want this to become an eyesore like PSC. We just don't need that. PSC is a great company. Excuse me, LKQ is a great company. Like I said, this is something that's needed. And I would like to welcome them to the 2nd Annual Buffalo Festival. Dickerson Road Merchants is hosting. And they put their money where their mouth is because all the proceeds are going to Maplewood High School Athletic Department. So I welcome you to the Buffalo Festival. LKQ.
Thank you.
Good evening, Speaker Pro Tem, council members. Thanks for inviting us out tonight to speak on behalf of the District 5 community. My name is Pam Murray. I live at 802 Stockel Street, and yes, I've been there ever since 1982, and I grew up in the area since I was about in the 7th grade. I come here to speak in opposition of this development at Lucas Lane, and there are several reasons why. It's been a long time coming for us to change the vision for that community. On June 14th, over 200 people signed a petition from this same Shady Hills community in opposition. We all live in District 5. We're the one community there's a corridor on both sides of our community. We have Gallatin Road and we have Dickerson Road. We're a great community, and we don't want to continue to be divided like that. But I tell you, a few weeks after that meeting, after a lot of pizza, a lot of Cokes, and so now I see 2 different color t-shirts, they've changed their mind, but all these people signed in opposition. So what does that tell you? LKQ has been spending a lot of money, but not on the entire community, only in this one development area. So that's why the other community doesn't know. And we at Neon purposely didn't spread the word out because we wanted our council member to have his opportunity to communicate with the other part of the community. But within the next few weeks, we will be communicating with the other part of the community. We respect the community. We respect our community plans. We respect the planning department because it's almost like they came and heard our cry about 8, 9 years ago. So when you say there's nothing up on that hill up there, Well, we're like the planning community. We're like the planning department. We see visions of condos, retail development, all stretching along that that highway there. And I don't have much time, but if you all will pay attention to the letters from the Southside Chattanooga Oak Hills Neighborhood Association and the Neighborhood Association in Memphis, it says LKQ junkyards are a blight to our community. Yes, they came in town promising to be good neighbors. We had heard of all these great stories. Sure, you're hearing the same things now. But I don't have time to finish, but if you all will get the package from the planning department and really read this, you'll understand why this does not fit the vision of our long-term planning with our community in District 5. Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no one else wishing to speak, I declare the public hearing closed. Councilmember Scott Davis.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to move for a vote with a brief explanation.
Go ahead.
I want to thank my community members, business owners, and residents in my district, and friends of residents from our district for coming out and speaking for and against. I like to always hear both sides of the argument, but it's clear to me, talking to the residents of my district, talking to the residents of the Shady Hills community, they are in support of this. This hill, because of the filling that's happened over the years, it cannot support. It cannot support condos or anything of that nature on this hill. And this is the best use for this hill, in my opinion, because it's going to get rid of a lot of problems on that hill right now. And I'm just asking my fellow council members, and I thank my community for coming out in support. Please vote with me in supporting this project. Thank you.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no? No. Motion passes. The next bill is 2012-212. It amends 1.2 acres of the Nashboro Village Plan Unit Development Overlay District for property located at 171 Bell Road, zoned R10, to permit residential uses consistent with the scale of development along Bell Road, where a 100-unit, 5-story building was previously approved. Councilmember Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move to open the public hearing.
Thank you. Let's wait a minute to clear the chambers. Okay, let's talk out in the hall. Let's move forward on the Nashboro Village Plan Unit Development Overlay District. Please raise your hand if you're here in favor. Please raise your hand if you're here in opposition. Seeing no one on either side, I declare the public hearing closed. Councilmember Johnson.
I move for approval.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The motion passes. Next item on the agenda is 2012-228, amends the Metro Code to modify the regulations and standards pertaining to the keeping of chickens on school property. Councilmember Taggart.
Thank you, Mr. Pro Tem. There is an amendment I need to
There's a substitute, but let's do the public hearing first.
The substitute will eliminate the need for a public hearing because it requires no zoning change.
Okay, perfect.
So I would move the substitute.
Okay. We have a motion and a second on the substitute. I guess we don't need an explanation or any. You want to comment on the substitute?
I won't speak unless there are any questions as to what we're attempting to do.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on the substitute. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The motion passes. Thank you. Okay. Excuse me. Councilman Tiger, you now need to move it as substituted.
Move the bill as substituted.
We have a motion and a second on the substituted bill. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. Next item on the agenda is 2012-229. It amends the Metro Code to provide a waiver of the fee for zoning applications filed by members of council in response to the Planning Commission's determination that a planned unit development district is inactive after conducting a periodic review. Councilmember Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move to open the public hearing.
Thank you. Please raise your hand if you're in favor. Please raise your hand if you're in opposition. Seeing no one on either side, I declare the public hearing closed. Councilmember Johnson.
I move for approval.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The motion passes. The next two bills are 230 and 231. We can take them together if there's no objection. Seeing no objection, we'll do that. 230 cancels 0.9 acres of the shops at Ridgeview Commercial Planned Unit Development Overlay District, located on Eagle View Boulevard, unnumbered, east of Bell Road, and approved for retail uses, zoned MUL, and proposed for SP. And Bill 231 changes 0.9 acres from MUL to SP district for property located at Eagle View Boulevard, unnumbered, east of Bell Forge Lane, to permit a car wash. Councilmember Dow.
I open the public hearing.
Thank you. Please raise your hand if you're in favor. Please raise your hand if you're in opposition. Seeing no one on either side, I declare the public hearing closed. Councilmember Dow.
The committee reports.
There are no committees.
Well, I just move for approval.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. Next bill is 2012-232, changes 1.63 acres from R10 zoning to CS zoning for properties located at 2721 Shacklet Drive and at 555, 559, and 561 Upshaw Drive. Councilmember Claiborne.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Open the public hearing, please.
Thank you. Please raise your hand if you're in favor. Please raise your hand if you're in opposition. Seeing no one in opposition, does anyone in favor wish to speak? Seeing no one on either side wishing to speak, I declare the public hearing closed. Councilmember Claiborne.
I move for approval.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The motion passes. Next is BL 2012-233, changes 0.96 acres from CS to SP district for property located at 6115 Charlotte Pike to permit used automobile sales, automobile repair, and all other uses permitted by the MUL district. Councilmember Baker.
I'd like to open the public hearing, please.
Thank you. Please raise your hand if you're here in favor tonight. Please raise your hand if you're in opposition. Seeing no one in opposition, does anyone in favor wish to speak? Seeing no one on either side wishing to speak, I declare the public hearing closed. Councilmember Baker.
Move approval.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The motion passes. Last item on public hearing is BL 2012-234, changes 1.72 acres from RM20 zoning to SP zoning for property located at 2215 Abbott Martin Road to permit up to 90 multifamily units and an associated parking deck. Councilmember McGuire.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move to open the public hearing.
Thank you. Please raise your hand if you're here tonight in favor. Please raise your hand if you're here in opposition. Would anyone in favor wish to speak? Please approach the lectern and state your name and give your address.
Am I on? There we go. Good evening. Thank you. I'm Marshall Albritton. I live at 900 Estes Road. I've lived there for 23 years, and I've lived in Green Hills for 46 years. I live, shop, and my children have been educated in Green Hills. I drive by this apartment complex 14 to 20 times a week, either going directly from the intersection of Estes and Abbott Martin, or by going through across Valley Brook and Cross Creek to that intersection and then turning. I've been driving by this place for over 35 years. I believe that this proposal is a great use for this property. It's one of the older properties in Green Hills that should be improved and renovated. The temptation is to keep things as they are because we fear change and we fear that things that change will bring, but that can result in stagnation and underused properties. And so the key is to develop these older properties in accordance with community standards, and I believe that what's been proposed does that. I think the community will benefit from the upgrade in appearance, and the facilities are going to be done. Second, I would say that Green Hills needs more residential properties that are accessible to all of Green Hills by walking, and the improvements that are proposed to be built do that. This property is perfect for that. And then third, the traffic. There are 46 apartments. I think it said 90, but the traffic impact, in my opinion, having driven by this and driving by it all the time, is minimal and will not affect the level of service. So I'm in favor of it as someone who drives by this thing 2 or 3 times a day, and I believe it would be a great addition for the Green Hills community. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. My name is John Gore. I'm with Barge Cawthon Civil Engineers. I live at 1212 Fatherland Street. This development proposes to add 46 new multifamily units to 2.2 acres on Abbott Martin Street. This development was approved at the Planning Commission 8-0. We've worked closely over the last couple of months with Metro Planning, Metro Public Works, Metro Stormwater, the Fire Marshal's Office towards approval with all those departments. We've seen very little opposition in the community. The developer has worked for a number of years with the community and changed the development substantially to meet the requests of the community. So we appreciate your support tonight and ask that you move approval. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Lucy Spoluto. I live at 3608 Meadowbrook Avenue, 37205. My husband and I moved to Nashville about 18 months ago for a fellowship I was doing at Vanderbilt. And at that time, we moved into the Village Green Hills apartment complex. About 9 months ago, our son joined us. And about 3 weeks ago, we bought a home in the Nashville area because we loved it so much here, we wanted to stay. Due to the nature of our jobs, my husband and I really could have moved pretty much anywhere in the country to live. We've lived all over the country, and this is just the place we liked best. A big part about why we wanted to stay was because of Brent, who owns the complex. He really helped us get settled in the area. He helped us find movers. He's been extremely helpful in many respects. We loved living in Green Hills and at that complex because we could walk everywhere. We walked to the Hill Center shops. We went there almost every day. We know lots of people in all of the shops. They know our son. They remember us. Everyone at Whole Foods knows us. We can walk to the mall. We can walk to our pediatrician's office. It was just a wonderful place for us to move, and it really probably is the reason we decided to stay here in Nashville and are settling here to raise our family.
Thank you.
My name is Sarah Levitt, and I live at 28 Inverary. I also work on Crestmore, and I go back and forth on Abbott Martin, crossing Abbott Martin, and I work and live and play in Green Hills. And having gone to college here in Nashville, I'm used to a walking lifestyle, which I can't currently enjoy. However, adding more units would allow me to move here, and I would promise you that I would sell my car if I moved into this development, because that's how much I love Green Hills and how much I love the development and being in the heart of everything. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, council members, for your time tonight. My name is John Abernathy. I'm with Dryden Abernathy Architecture Design, 2520 White Avenue, Nashville, Tennessee. And we are the design architect for the Village Green Hills new building. It will fit in the footprint of 2 existing buildings that are approximately 40 years old. The upgrades that the property owner is wishing to make far exceed any developer that we work with the exception possibly of MDHA, where we've done LEED Platinum work. Mr. Smith wants to provide exceptional value for his clients, his tenants that live in the building. He's discussed extremely high efficiency of plumbing and HVAC systems, so that the cost that gets passed to his residents actually comes down for living there, giving more people opportunity to live, work, walk to shops in Green Hills, as other people have already discussed. I don't want to repeat what other people have said, so I just want to ask that you think about this tonight and that you vote positive in support of this project. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is John Tomlinson. My address is 2215 Abbott Martin Road, and I come to you tonight from the perspective of not only being a current resident of the Villages of Green Hills, but also having lived on Abbott Martin Road for 29 years. And my wife and I are renovating a home, so we needed a temporary residence and sought after the Villages of Green Hills just from a walkability standpoint. We find that we don't even operate our vehicles on the weekends now. We walk to the mall and to Whole Foods and to see movies and so forth. And Brent has done just an amazing job of creating a unique living space. And I personally think that Green Hills is starving for this type of concept, and that many more residents will pour in if this project is approved. So we ask for your approval tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Michael Rankin, 926 Chancery Lane. I am president of Crane Construction. Crane was started in Green Hills 79 years ago, and I asked for approval based on jobs. Our industry is still the hardest hit industry. At peak we were, or I should say valley, 24% unemployment. We're currently about 17%. That's huge. This project will affect over 100 families, local families, in providing them jobs and putting food on their table. Based on that fact, I ask for approval for this project.
Thank you.
Council members, thank you for your time. My name is Brent Smith. My partner and I, Dave Clark, own this property. We also both live in Green Hills. I live at 4213 Wallace Lane. This project actually started for me a little over about 3 years ago with the initial plan of being an approximately 250 unit complex, which some of y'all may remember. And we held numerous numerous neighborhood meetings. I met with practically every person that lives in Green Hills. We listened to the community. We withdrew that initial rezoning because of the two major complaints that we heard from everyone in the community, and that was that it's too big and it doesn't conform to the community plan. So made a decision. We went back and we said, let's renovate the property that's there, and then let's do a little experiment. Let's see if actually what we project or hope would happen would actually happen. And that is, one of the other things we heard is that nobody walks in Green Hills. Everybody drives their cars everywhere. So we put in a gate that connects to the Y, because we have this is a very unique piece of property, because we are actually at the hub of Green Hills that divides between the commercial area of Green Hills and the residential area of Green Hills. With this new property, what we did when we renovated it, we put in just a simple gate that allowed people to walk to the Y. And guess what? They also walk to the Hill Center, they walk to the movie theaters, they walk all over the place. 90% of the commercial area of Green Hills is within a quarter mile of this piece of property, which again makes this a very unique piece of property. Because for a property to actually be walkable, the person has to be in their mindset of, it makes more sense for me to walk to where I'm wanting to go than to get in my car and drive to where I want to go. And that's what this piece of property does. But another thing happened with this property, and that was we started seeing people move here from Hawaii, California, New York, Chicago, all over the country, wanted to live in this piece of property because of the fact that it is a walkable piece of property. We have a teacher that works at Hillsborough High School, moved here from Chattanooga to live here so she could walk to work. So All we're asking to do is do a very minor increase in this property. This is not a major increase. It conforms to the community plan. It's on our piece of property. We've had another round of community meetings. We've listened to everyone. We had enthusiastic support and approval from the Planning Commission. This is a piece of property that needs to be done for the community because it allows people to move into this city, fall in love with it, and stay here, and not to be throwing stones at our neighbors, but I'd much rather have people fall in love with Green Hills and Nashville and live here than fall in love with Franklin and stay down there and use our services and not pay the taxes. So that's what this does. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone in opposition wish to speak? Please come to the lectern.
Hi, my name is Bartley McGee. I live at 2842 Kenway Road, right around the corner from this development. And my concern is with some of the process of how this has happened, but also just with the general principle. I think when you look at each individual project that requires a zoning change, it's easy to say this is a great project. But taken in sum, what we're adding to is the overall density in Green Hills in an area that can't support the density it already has. And I would take issue with the developers, supporters who've said that they've had community meetings. They did have community meetings several years ago when they proposed a much larger development, but the community was in vast opposition to it, and the message was, do what you can do within your existing zoning, and we don't have a problem with it. We certainly don't have a problem with improving the existing structures, improving the appearance of the property. But anything that adds to the already severe problems we have in Green Hills with traffic is just not welcome. And unfortunately, the community has not been involved this time. The Planning Commission didn't involve the community, probably because it didn't require an update to the community plan. But there have been no hearings other than the Planning Commission meeting where the residents in the area could voice their concerns. I was at the Planning Commission meeting, and what I appreciated from their discussion was that they're looking at this from purely a planning standpoint. Does it make sense as a plan? But they deferred specifically to the Metro Council on a policy decision as to whether this is something that should be done. And so I'm asking each of you to examine. I mean, I'm sure you've all driven through the area. You know the problems that face us, and they can talk about walkable communities all they want to, but there's no proof that they're going to decrease traffic in any way. There is proof they're going to increase traffic. I would also say that the number of units they're proposing, while they call it a small increase, is not necessarily small. They're going from however many units they have, doubling that, plus they're making larger units, which means more residents, more cars. Another concern I have that was not addressed really at the Planning Commission meeting is that they're right in the Sugar Tree Creek drainage area and floodway. They're leaving two of the structures. I'm sure they wouldn't if they didn't have to, but they're leaving two of the structures that are in the floodplain. So they're not doing anything to address a potential problem there that has hurt a lot of neighbors in the past. So I wish there was more opposition, people speaking in opposition tonight. I guarantee you it's not because they don't feel this way. It's just that there hasn't been much mention of it, and it's sort of slipped under the radar. So I ask each of you to really examine the need for increasing density in this area. Thank you.
Seeing no one else wishing to speak, I declare the public hearing closed. Councilmember McGuire.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move approval.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. We're now at the point in our agenda where we consider the resolutions on the consent agenda. Tonight we have resolutions 2012-396 through 2012-404 on the consent agenda, and our 4 memorializing resolutions. Resolution number 2012-393, Councilmember Evans, and Resolution 2012-395, Councilmember Matthews. We'll deal with those after the consent agenda. Do any of the resolutions on the consent agenda need to be pulled from the consent agenda? Seeing no objections, we need some committee reports. First, Budget and Finance, Councilmember Matthews. Councilmember Matthews, Budget and Finance.
Budget and Finance, move to approve all bills on the consent agenda, 8-4-0 against.
Thank you. Public Safety, Councilmember Bennett.
Thank you. Resolutions 398, 399, and 400 were approved by Public Safety, 8-4-0 against.
Thank you. Rules and Confirmation, Councilmember Anthony Davis.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, RS 2012-404 through 4A were approved unanimously, 5-4-0 against, and I move approval of the consent agenda.
Thank you. I'll read the captions quickly on those consent agenda resolutions. The first is RS 2012-396, approves an application for a courtroom technology enhancement grant from the Tennessee Administrative Office of the Courts to the State Trial Courts. RS 2012-397 approves a grant agreement from the National League of Cities to the Mayor's Office of Children and Youth for the cities combating hunger through the after-school meals program, and appropriates grant funds to Second Harvest Food Bank to implement an after-school meals program. 398 approves a grant from the Tennessee Emergency Management Agency to the Mayor's Office of Emergency Management to subsidize Metro's emergency management program. 2012-399 approves an intergovernmental agreement between the United States Marshal Service and the Metropolitan Nashville Police Department for participation in the Violent Offender Task Force. 400 approves Amendment 1 to the Staffing for Adequate Fire and Emergency Response Grant from the U.S. Department of Homeland Security to the Metropolitan Government. RS 2012-401 authorizes the Metro Department of Law to compromise and settle the Metropolitan Government's claim against Rishana Okajee in the amount of $6,000. 402 authorizes the Metro Department of Law to settle the personal injury claim of Deborah Stone against Metro in the amount of $20,000. RS 2012-403 authorizes the Metro Department of Law to compromise and settle the personal injury claim of Michael Wilson against Metro in the amount of $9,000. And RS 2012-404 approves the election of notaries public for Davidson County. The memorializing resolutions, there are 4 of those. 405, sponsored by Domini, recognizes Chaplain Tim Eldred on being named National Sheriff's Association Chaplain of the Year for 2012. RS 2012-406, sponsored by Councilmember Allen, recognizes the Friends of Marone Carroll Jr. Children's Hospital at Vanderbilt, celebrating 40 years of existence this year. 407, also sponsored by Councilmember Allen, recognizes Christ the King Catholic Church on their 75th anniversary. And RS 2012-408, sponsored by Bedney and Banks, recognizes the Oliver Middle School band program for their accomplishments. We have a motion and a second for all of the items on the consent agenda. All in favor of the consent agenda, please say aye.
Point of order first. Point of order. Sure. Do we have enough people to conduct business on the floor?
Yes.
How many do we have to have?
We have to have 27. We had 28 just last I counted just a second ago.
Yeah, we have 28. It's 27 for a quorum.
The chair counts as part of the quorum.
Chair counts?
Yes.
Right.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
So we have a motion and a second on all the items on the consent agenda. All in favor of the consent agenda, please say aye. Opposed, no. The consent agenda passes. We're back now to the two other resolutions. RS 2012-393 provides an amendment to the charter of the Metropolitan Government to rename the Water Department the Department of Watershed Management and to do some other two other items. Councilmember Evans.
I need to defer this to the second meeting in September to be considered with the other charter amendments.
Right, we have a committee report.
Oh, I'm sorry. Committee reports, please.
Charter revision, Councilman Holloman.
Committee voted to recommend and move to the Charter Revision Commission 6-0.
Thank you. Councilmember Evans.
Move approval.
Move to defer.
I'm sorry. Move to defer second meeting in September.
Right.
Thank you.
So we have a motion and a second to defer. All in favor of deferral, please say aye. Opposed, no. Deferral passes. The final resolution is RS 2012-395. It appropriates $8,745,000 from the General Reserve Fund for the purchase of equipment and building repairs for various departments in Metro government. Councilmember Matthews.
Yes, Mr. President Pro Tem. The committee approved to pass as substituted and amended 8-4-0 against. And I would like to move the amendment or the substitute first.
Move the substitute first. We have a motion and a second on the substitute. All in favor of the substitute, please say aye. Opposed, no. The substitute passes.
Thank you. I would like to move the amendment at this point. And if I could ask Mr. Cooper to explain the amendment.
The amendment deletes the $400,000 appropriation for the Election Commission for additional electronic polling books. If this appropriation is removed, it could come back at a later meeting as a standalone resolution.
Councilman Claiborne.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would move to table the amendment.
We have a motion and a second to table the amendment. Is there any discussion?
So now it goes back.
Back to Councilman Matthews. Councilman Matthews.
Thank you. I would ask that the council respectfully not table this amendment at this time. I have had a conversation with Joan Nixon of the Election Commission. She admittedly said that there were problems with training poll workers, and there were some clerical errors in using the electronic poll books during the primary election in August. And this is not against the electronic poll books. This is not because we are technophobes and we don't want to use new technology. This amendment simply is asking the Election Commission to go through an audit and come back and report back to the council of how they will roll the electronic poll books out after the November election, which they're not even planning to use these electronic poll books for the November election that's coming up. So I would respectfully ask the council to really consider not voting on the tabling of this amendment at this time. I want to ask that we be allowed and have the chance to audit the Election Commission and what happened in the August election, and that we have the Election Commission come before the council and answer some questions about the uncertainty of using the electronic poll books and their plans going forward with rolling them out for any subsequent election after November.
Thank you. Councilman Claiborne.
Yes. As Councilman Matthews has indicated, these machines are not planned to be used for the November election. Nevertheless, the purchase of them moving forward to have them programmed for future elections, I don't think that it's proper for us to hold that up at this point in time, given the fact that the Election Commission has been forthright in acknowledging that there were some issues with the first-time use, that they have been corrected with reprogramming, and that even if they were to be used in the November election, the same issues would not occur again. As far as the audit of the Election Commission, I don't know if you read the paper this morning. There was a Tennessean article that indicated the depth of difficulty involved in the audit of an election. So we're asking our internal audit division, which is made up of just a handful of people, to take on a momentous task that even the state acknowledges is beyond reasonable efforts to accomplish. I think that in holding back this money indicates an element of distrust from this council to the Election Commission when there is no basis for us to do that. And so I would ask you to vote for the tabling of the motion. Thank you.
Councilman Holloman.
Point of information, it's been my understanding that these machines have already been delivered to the Election Commission. Does anybody have an answer to that? And if so, are there any financial liabilities to the city if we don't pay for them at this time, and/or can we return them until they meet the obligations that we are asking of them?
Third hand, I was told by a couple sources that they have ordered the machines and that I believe they have been delivered. I mean, without having the funding in place, I mean, they can't purchase the machines. So if the funding is not appropriated, they would obviously have to be returned.
Okay, and do we know if that's possible?
I mean, I would think whatever they had delivered, they could have returned, but I don't have any firsthand knowledge of that.
Okay.
Councilmember Evans, if you have a point of information, I think you can speak. But it's a tabling motion, so we don't.
Debatable.
Yeah, it's not debatable.
No, thank you.
You actually.
Can I speak to Councilman Holland's question?
You asked what I wanted.
Councilmember Matthews.
Councilman Holloman, in my conversation with Ms. Nixon from the Election Commission, I did ask her if this was time sensitive and if they needed the funding now. I asked if we did defer this for one meeting and brought back a separate resolution specifically for the Election Commission, would that hurt them? And she said no.
So we can have a machine vote on the.
Councilman Glover, if you also have a point of information, or?
Yes, Mr. Cooper, explain to me if we table or we pass, what's the differences here, please, sir?
If you vote yes on the tabling motion, then you would not be in support of the amendment to take out the funding. If you vote no on the tabling motion, you would like to go ahead and vote on the amendment.
So we will have a machine vote on the tabling motion. With the clerk will open the machine. And the clerk, if everyone has voted, the clerk can read the results, show the results.
You'll have to vote.
I did.
Yeah, it's a tie. You'll have to vote anyway.
Okay. I put it the wrong way. Okay, you right there, push it.
Yep. Okay, I think she can record it.
I voted nay. The Vice Mayor voted nay to table.
So tabling motion fails.
I pushed it, but it didn't show. I voted nay. It's 15-14 to.
Yes. So now we're back on the motion for the amendment.
You're back on the motion for the amendment. Councilman Matthews.
Yes, I would like to move the amendment, please, with a brief explanation.
Councilman Matthews.
Thank you, Mr. President Pro Tem. I do appreciate it. I believe that we should pass this amendment at this time. I want to ask for your support. I don't believe that we should just rely on what's written in the newspapers to decide what business goes on in this city and how business is conducted in this city. And I think that I think it's our responsibility to have the Election Commission come before us with all the uncertainty of what's going on at the Election Commission with the last election, to give some sort of explanation about what's happening with a very serious process in our country, and that is voting. So I would ask that you support this amendment. This is something that we can bring back. It's something that the Election Commission said will not hurt them as far as the purchase of these machines in the future if we have a discussion and they're willing to come and have the discussion with the council. Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there others to speak on the amendment?
Councilman Garrett, on the amendment.
Mr. Chairman, I know we're getting in all the questions about it, and I know what it's all about with the letter and all, but correct me if I'm wrong, the request to defer this was actually asked for by the commission, the individual who was here. Mr. Tisch was at a commission meeting, so I mean he was in a meeting and he actually came up here and asked the council to defer this for 2 weeks. So don't get mixed up in all this other stuff that's going on. They asked for the 2-week deferral so that he could come up here and tell us and talk to us or talk to the finance committee. It's just as simple as that.
Thank you. Councilmember Evans.
On this amendment, I'm curious about this audit. What are we going to be auditing?
The audit is not part of this amendment, and that the council does not have the authority to order an audit. The council has 2 representatives on the audit committee, and there was a letter to the committee by a group of council members asking that an audit be conducted of the Election Commission.
Okay, so we can put this, basically take this out, bring it back in a couple of weeks when the Election Commission has answered some of their questions internally, and we don't have to wait for an audit.
No, it's
I mean,
not
that could
tied
take
to an audit. No,
yeah,
ma'am.
that could take months. Okay, that's what I was concerned about. Thank you.
Councilmember Tenpenny.
Yeah, my only thing with this is we were talking, and you said you heard from a third party, Mr. Cooper, that if these machines have been ordered, that we're not 100% sure that we can even take these machines and return them. And before I vote on this amendment, I'd like to know for sure 100% that we can return these machines without any penalties or anything like that. So I just wanted to make that clear before I vote on this amendment.
I can't answer that, can you?
Yeah.
I mean, without the council appropriating the money, the Election Commission had no authority to buy these machines, pure and simple. So if
they've been ordered.
I understand, but the council is the ultimate authority for appropriating the funding for the machines. So that's, I mean, that's kind of the dilemma at this
I understand that,
point.
but if you have a company that says, hey, look, if you're going to return these things, you're going to get penalized, you're going to have, you know.
And I don't know the answer to that question. I don't believe anybody here does.
I believe that's a big if right there. I think we need to know that.
Councilmember Domini.
Thank you, Speaker Pro Tem. Just for clarification, the motion on the floor is to defer this particular amendment one meeting?
No, sir. The motion on the floor is to approve the amendment to delete the $400,000 appropriation to the Election Commission.
But the representative from the Election Commission asked that we defer this and not make a determination on this for 2 weeks.
There's no way to, I mean, if you deferred the resolution, that would also defer all the other appropriations for the other departments. So the only way to get that one separate is to excise it from the resolution and bring it back separately.
So basically this, we need something has to be done to remove that. I can't do that having already spoken. Somebody else would have to do that. Is that correct?
Well, the amendment would remove that appropriation from the overall resolution. It could then be brought back at any point as a standalone resolution, I mean, at the very next meeting, but you could not defer just that one appropriation out of it.
All right, I just want to make sure because there's been some confusion with folks talking here. So if we take it out, we can bring back another resolution next meeting to address this and put it back in.
Yes, sir.
And that is basically what the representative from the Election Commission has asked that we do, is to give them 2 weeks to address this issue internally, which would probably be appropriate on our part. And now, for a point of clarification, there's lots of processes in here, and there's some confusion as to whether or not what took place changed a ballot. The ballots, as officer of election, the ballot application is what these machines created. It's not an actual ballot. There's several things that should have occurred to prevent that from getting to a person that actually voted and given the wrong ballot, but those didn't occur, and some of that's education, and I think the Election Commission can work on that as we move forward, but I think we ought to go ahead and pull this out and get it done so we can let the Election Commission go through the proper process. Thanks.
Councilmember Taggart.
And if I'm not mistaken, the request from Budget and Finance Committee was that a resolution to bring this back in 2 weeks was requested.
Yes, I have got it on my list to prepare for the next file.
So we will be discussing these machines in 2 weeks.
Yes.
Thank you.
Councilmember Matthews.
Yes, and to respond to Council Lady Evans' question, the Election Commission is willing to come and speak with us, so they're not planning on us waiting for a full audit before we can make a decision on this, but they are willing to come and answer questions for the council directly.
Councilmember Glover.
Mr. Cooper, just a quick, I guess, piece of clarification. All right, so if you've already been asked to do the resolution at the next meeting, it comes back, what will be our process and how long on this $400,000, how long is going to be, will the money be held up before it could actually be free to pay for these machines if in fact we keep them?
As soon as the mayor signs the resolution, the funds will be available, assuming that we have funds on hand. Now, sometimes we stagger these appropriations, as the money comes in, but Finance Director could better answer that.
I certified the availability of funds with it included in the resolution, and I don't anticipate filing any other 4% resolutions in the next 2 weeks. So I don't see there's any issue about there will be availability of funds, and then it's just a matter of the council to vote it up or down.
Thank you.
Councilmember Matthews. This is on the amendment, and we'll have a machine vote on the amendment. Voting on the amendment. Yes is for the amendment, no is against the amendment. Everyone voted. Clerk, will you show the results? The amendment passes. Councilman Matthews.
I'd like to move approved as amended, the substitute.
We have a motion and a second on the substitute as amended. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The substitute as amended passes. This brings us to our bills on introduction and first reading. Tonight we have two late bills. The first is by Councilmember Dow, approves a facilities use agreement between the Metro Nashville Public Schools and Nashville State Community College. And the second one is from Councilmember Matthews. It approves the abandonment of a sanitary sewer main and easements located at 1600 Rosa L. Parks Boulevard and Rosa L. Parks Boulevard unnumbered. If there's no objection, these two bills will be added to the bills on first reading to be considered at this time. Seeing there's no objection, is there a motion to pass all the bills on first reading?
So moved.
We have a motion and a second to pass all bills on first reading. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. All the bills on first reading passed. We're now at the bills on second reading. The first bill on second reading is 2012-195. It changes 2.48 acres from R6, RM20, RM40, SP, MUL, MUG, MUI, OR20, ORI, CL, CS, CF, IWD, and IR to MULA, 154.04 acres to MUGA, 234.33 acres to MUIA, and 63.29 acres to ORIA zoning for various properties in Midtown between I-440 and I-40. Councilmember Allen.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Committee reports, please.
Yeah, we don't have a committee report yet.
Okay.
So.
Thought we did. All right, good. I'll wait on that then. I'd like to move for approval with a brief explanation.
We have a motion and a second. Go ahead, Council Leader.
I just would like to clarify there have been some comments. People have gotten a few emails about this, and I just want to say this is a bill about managing growth. It's better planning to locate new businesses and residences in the city on a major corridor rather than contributing to urban sprawl. This is about putting new growth in an area where the infrastructure is already there to support it. This rezoning is largely a conversion from commercial and office to mixed use, which will allow people to live where they work and play, which can actually reduce traffic. This process started with the Midtown Community Plan update. Several community meetings took place with a lot of community input. There was strong support for the land use changes that allow for greater density along these corridors. Now the economy is strengthening and the investment community has responded with a number of requests to rezone individual properties. This bill provides a comprehensive approach to allowing that increase while instituting better urban design like mixed-use zoning and pedestrian-friendly buildings and streets. Several concerns have been raised, and the sponsors of the bills have been working hard to deal with these. Several people have interpreted this bill as a final vote on the proposed bus rapid transit project. There is interplay between those projects, but the BRT is being considered separately through community discussion, and it will be debated by this council separately. This bill stands on its own as a rezoning for this area of town. There's been concern about preservation of historic properties within the area. We've worked with planning and historic staff to identify significant properties and to put protections in place. There's been some concern about providing some type of design guidelines for such a large rezoning. The alternative zonings that are applied provide some guidelines inherently, and I thank Councilman Bill Claiborne for that. And we have worked with planning to incorporate plans for an urban design overlay for appropriate areas. There's still details to be worked out. There will be a substitute bill on third reading. We are going to try to put some teeth into our urban design overlay so that we know that those will actually happen. I appreciate the efforts of the planning staff tremendously. I feel that this bill can address these concerns. I think we've made a lot of good progress. We're not quite there, but we're going to continue to be working, and I think what we end up with will be good for Nashville, and I ask for your support. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Tygart.
Question for Mr. Bernhardt. How have the affected property owners been notified about this rezoning?
They've been noticed twice, and we've had numerous meetings, and we've had, gosh, I don't know, probably 100 phone calls individually with them. Every property owner has been made aware of it, and they've been given the opportunity to have their property withdrawn, and several have chosen to do that.
Thank you.
Councilmember Allen, have you moved approval?
Yes, I did.
You did, okay.
I asked for approval. Is that the same as moving for approval?
Right. We have a motion and a second. All in favor on second reading, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The bill passes on second reading. The next bill is 2012-236, amends official street and alley acceptance and maintenance map by abandoning Reedwood Drive right-of-way and easement. Councilmember Stites.
Thank you. Committee reports, please.
Planning and let's see, Public Works, Councilman Potts.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Public Works voted to approve 7-4-0 against.
Thank you. Traffic and Parking, Councilmember Harrison.
Traffic and Parking approved 5-4-0 against.
Councilmember Stites.
I'll move the bill, please.
Second. We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. Next is 2012-237, amends the Metro Code relative to employee and retiree benefits, pensions, and medical benefits. Councilmember McGuire.
Thank you, Mr. President. I think Mr. Matthews is going to handle this one.
Okay. Councilmember Matthews.
I'd like to move deferral on this bill for one meeting.
Second. We have a motion and second for deferral. All in favor of deferral, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Deferral passes. Okay, that's right. Let's get the two committee reports before deferral. Sorry.
I'm sorry.
And it's you on Budget and Finance. Councilmember Matthews.
Yes, Budget and Finance approved with the First Amendment, but did not take up the Second Amendment. Made no recommendation on the Second Amendment, and it was 8-4-0 against.
Thank you. And Personnel, Councilmember Banks.
Personnel Committee voted 6-0 for the First Amendment, 4-2 on the Second Amendment, and approved the bill 6-0.
Thank you, and we've approved deferral on that. So the next bill is 2012-238, authorizes the Director of Public Property to accept and record easements on certain parcels of property for use in the Harpeth River and Mill Creek Greenway systems. Councilmember McGuire.
Thank you, Mr. President. Committee reports, please.
Budget and Finance, Councilmember Matthews.
Budget Finance approved 8-4-0 against.
Parks and Recreation, Councilmember Allen.
Parks voted for 7-4-0 against.
And Planning and Zoning, Councilmember Claiborne.
Planning and Zoning approved 10-0.
Councilmember McGuire.
Thank you. I'd move approval.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor of approval, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. Next is 2012-239, approves the acquisition of property located at 1220 Berwick Trail for the Neely's Bend Pump Station Upgrade Project. Councilmember McGuire.
Thank you, Mr. President. Committee reports, please.
Budget and Finance, Councilmember Matthews.
Budget and Finance approved 8-4-0 against.
Public Works, Councilmember Potts.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Public Works voted 7-4-0 against.
Planning and Zoning, Councilmember Claiborne.
Planning and Zoning approved 10-0.
Councilmember McGuire.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd move approval.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Councilmember Pridemore?
Mr. Chairman, I need to be on record abstaining on this.
The clerk will note that. We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The motion passes. And the last bill on second reading is BL 2012-240. It authorizes the acquisition of property in fee simple by negotiation, condemnation, or acceptance for the purpose of acquiring land to add to the Julia Green Elementary property for Metro Nashville Public Schools. Councilmember McGuire. And I think there's a housekeeping amendment to this.
Thank you, Mr. President. May I have committee reports, please?
The Budget and Finance, Councilmember Matthews.
Budget and Finance approved as amended, 8-4-0 against.
Education, Councilmember Bedney.
Education approved, 7-4-0 against.
And Planning and Zoning, Councilmember Claiborne.
Planning and Zoning approved, 10-0.
Councilmember McGuire.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would move the amendment.
We have a motion and a second on the amendment. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. The amendment passes. Councilmember McGuire.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd move as amended.
We have a motion and second on the amended bill. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. The motion passes. We're now at bills on third reading, and if there's no objection, we can take Bill 197 and 198 together. Seeing no objection, Bill 197 is a zone change. It changes 1.24 acres from MUN to OL zoning for properties located at 673 Old Hickory Boulevard and at Old Hickory Boulevard unnumbered, east of Cloverland Drive. And 198 amends 1.24 acres of the President's Reserve at Brentwood Commercial Planned Unit Development Overlay District for property located at 673 Old Hickory Boulevard and Old Hickory Boulevard unnumbered, east of Cloverland Drive, zoned MUN and proposed for OL to permit a medical office, general office, and outpatient clinic building where an office building was previously approved. Councilmember Banks.
Thank you, Mr. President. Committee reports.
Councilmember Claiborne, Planning and Zoning.
Planning and Zoning approved, 10-0.
Councilmember Banks.
Move approval.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. Next is BL 2012-209, authorizes MuniNet Fiber Agency to construct, install, and maintain fiber optic cable within Davidson County. Councilmember Tenpenny.
Committee reports.
Yeah, all the committees are in.
Move for approval.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. Next is BL 2012-215, amends the Metro Code to prohibit the use of Metro government funds to purchase, construct, or erect building or ground signs that identify the name of an elected or appointed official. Councilmember Stites.
Move the bill.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. The next is 2012-216, amends the Metro Code relative to property tax billing and payment procedures. Councilmember McGuire.
Thank you, Mr. President. All committees having reported, I'd move approval.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. Next is BL 2012-217, names the West Police Precinct in honor of Chief Joe D. Casey. Councilmember Baker.
All committees in, I move approval.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The motion passes. Next is 2012-218, amends the Metro Code to provide for temporary reduction of sewer charges for customers within the area of the combined sewer overflow who install green roofs on their buildings. Councilmember McGuire.
Thank you, Mr. President. All committees having reported, I would move approval.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The motion passes. 219 approves the acquisition of property located at 914 Berwick Trail for the Berwick Trail Pump Station upgrade. Councilmember Pridemore.
Thank you, Mr. President. With all committees in, I move for approval.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. Next is BL 2012-220. It authorizes the acquisition of property located at 3268 Brick Church Pike for the Brick Church Pike Equalization Facility Project. Councilmember McGuire.
Thank you, Mr. President. All committees having reported, I move approval.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. 221 authorizes the acquisition of easements for an upgrade to the Vandiver Pump Station. Councilmember Pridemore.
Thank you, Mr. President. With all committees in, I move for approval.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Opposed, no. The motion passes. Next is BL 2012-222 approves the acquisition of property located at Brush Hill Road unnumbered for the Loves Branch Pump Station. Councilmember Anthony Davis. Sorry, Councilmember Davis.
Thank you. All committees in. I would like to move approval.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. The motion passes. Next is 2012-223, authorizes the exchange of property for use as part of the Mill Creek Greenway. Councilmember Bedney. We're on 223.
Reports, please.
All committees are in.
Well, I move for approval.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Opposed, no. The motion passes.
Good save. Oh, sorry.
224 authorizes the acquisition of easements for the Dickerson Pike Stormwater Improvement Project located along Ben Allen Road. Councilmember Bennett.
Please move approval.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Opposed, no. The motion passes. 225 authorizes the acquisition of 4 easements for the Munn Road Bridge Replacement Project. Councilmember Claiborne.
All committees have approved, and I move for approval.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. The motion passes. Bill 2012-226 authorizes the acquisition of easements for 12 properties located along Murfreesboro Pike and Saturn Drive for the Saturn Drive Stormwater Improvement Project. Councilmember Stites.
I think there are committee reports still to be reported on this.
No, all committees are in.
I move approval.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. BL 2012-227 authorizes the acquisition of 12 easements for the Jackson's View Stormwater Improvement Project for properties located along Andrew Jackson Way, Brett Ridge Drive, Carriageway Court, Jackson's Hill Road, Jackson's Valley Road, and Jackson's View Road. Councilman Glover.
With all committee reports in, I'd move approval.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Opposed, no. The motion passes. Our last bill on third reading is 2012-235, amends the official street and alley acceptance and maintenance map by abandoning a portion of alley number 802 and alley number 815 right-of-way and easements. Councilmember Allen.
All committee reports are in. I move for approval.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. Councilmember Tygart.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I should have done this at the start of the meeting, but before we move for adjournment, I'd like to request a brief moment of silence for the senseless violence honoring the family in Bellevue that was affected Friday.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I now entertain a motion to adjourn. We're adjourned.